All right. We're back with another Superwall podcast today. I have Joseph, who is the founder of the esteemed Consumer Club. Joseph is the guy that everyone wants to go to if they want to know how to blow up their consumer app. And I think we have a lot of interesting stuff to get into today. So let's start with introductions. Joseph, as I said, founder of Consumer Club, would love to hear a little bit more sort of about your background and what led to you starting Consumer Club. And then we can actually dive into what Consumer Club is and why so many people are in it and talking about it.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I actually just kind of accidentally found myself in this like app space. I'm kind of just an internet marketer. Like I've always just been interested in how to make money online, and that is weird. I think I've always thought about distribution and growth hacks and finding underpriced channels and stuff like that because I started out in drop shipping and e-commerce. I just went on YouTube when I was in college and I was like, how to make money online. And I found like these videos, how to start a drop shipping store on Shopify and do like Facebook ads and stuff. Because in 2018, I think Facebook ads was still somewhat underpriced. I
Mm,
did like Instagram meme pages, but anyway, I worked in tech, like worked at Google for a while as well. Did startup consulting, but Consumer Club basically is just the place on the internet that I always wish existed, which is combining the kind of the scrappy growth hack people with the really smart, like product minded, just scalable, like people who think in scale. Like, how do you build a tech company out of these uh, growth hacks instead of just doing, drop shipping? Not that drop
mm,
shipping is
mm.
bad. I think drop shipping taught me a lot
Mm.
about business and marketing. But so Consumer Club is a place where app founders come to learn from each other about just chasing the current distribution edge and trying to find um, how to go viral on TikTok. Going viral on TikTok is kind of the thing right now, but who knows what it is in like a year or two. Maybe TikTok doesn't exist and it's something else, but it's really about how do you find an edge um, in this business.
Awesome. Okay, so it sounds like you had sort of a background in tech, grew up on the internet as a lot of these sort of like internet money marketers or product builders do, and you were looking for a place to sort of collect like a community of people like yourself who are good at what they do and who are able to make money online. Is that right? And that's sort of what the genesis was for Consumer Club.
Totally. Yeah.
Got it. Awesome. Okay, so cool. So, Consumer Club, for those who don't know, it's a Discord community, right? And there are founders who range from, solo indie devs making, upwards of millions of dollars in ARR, all the way to venture-backed founders who are taking, these really big swings at like billion-dollar markets, right? And I think the thing that's really interesting to me about this sort of group of people is, while the sort of swings that they're taking might be different, right? Like an indie dev, like a solo founder versus like a venture-backed founder who might have raised millions of dollars. It sounds like everyone's sort of collected in this community because everyone's sort of seeking that same thing, which is like this edge in distribution, right? And you kind of referenced it a little bit at the beginning there, but I'd love to hear a little bit more just from like you sort of your own perspective. Like, is that right? Like despite these founders, being seemingly different, everyone's kind of seeking the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think isn't that what business is about? Like you're trying to find some sort of edge and like fill a gap in the market. And whether your goal is to make $10 million and then like go like sit on a beach, or if it's like to change the world and like build this like VC backed company, either way, like you want to figure out what consumers want and like solve a problem with a product. So if you want to do that, um, like starting with I think people say like, oh, start with distribution. It's really just like start with the market, like understand what does the market want. And one way to do that is to look at TikTok and see what people are like what content are people consuming, because that's an insight into like what are the pain points, what do people talk about. So TikTok is like, I think people, it's like this weird mystical thing that people have different takes about, but one way that I like to see it is it's just it's basically like talking to millions of people at the same
Mm.
time and like doing research and understanding like what the world cares about. And so whether you're like a venture back founder or you just want to make a few $1 million, like you have to like understand humans.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I appreciate that a lot. So, I think something that's really interesting is a tweet that you actually tweeted, a while back when you're sort of introducing like the thesis of Consumer Club. And the tweet, in it, you basically said like, hey, for Consumer Club, this is really for founders who, are trying to, or who recognize that distribution, can beat product in many cases. And for those who see that business to B2B founders often learn from consumer, and consumer founders often learn from e-com, and e-com often learns from affiliate. There's a few more things that you said in that tweet, but I want to break those two down just a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit more about sort of what you mean by those two things?
Yeah, I mean, I saw it first when I came from ecom, because I, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but I always talk about Oliver Mercado and Tabs Chocolate. So
Mm.
Tabs Chocolate is this ecom brands that went from 0 to 10 million in 1 year with purely TikTok organic, no ads, and it's really interesting because they just like they they didn't do influencer marketing, and they kind of broke the TikTok game by realizing that, oh, you don't need people to have audiences to talk about your product. You can just hire a bunch of kids or a bunch of teenagers and just like have them talk about your product like very organically on brand new accounts with zero followers. And if it's good, as long as it's good content and you show the product in the video, then it'll get views.
Mhm.
Um, and it worked very well. But then this guy, he moved on from Tabs Chocolate, and now he did Study Buddy, which is a software company. So, and in public, I remember like the day he tweeted this, he was like, "I'm gonna now go into consumer SaaS instead
Mhm.
of ecom, because sure, this works in ecom, but like we could just run back the same exact strategy, but then do it on for a product that has better exit multiples, better margins, less headache of like fulfillment and manufacturing and all that. And
Mhm.
yeah, there's some barrier to entry of like building a tech product, but if you know how to code a little bit, or you know how to AI code now in
Mhm.
2025, like um, yeah, it's like you can use the same tactics. But I think why why do tactics start in e-commerce and then they kind of go up to tech? I think it's like it's basically just like how much of a commodity is the product.
Mhm.
So like you mentioned affiliate. So, think about like these affiliate marketers that earn 10% of revenue that they drive to a gambling site. All these gambling sites are like basically similar, and then all the affiliates, they're just promoting the same offer. So they're all competing with each other on the same exact product.
Right.
So of course they have to find different ways to compete with each other and make their marketing better and better. So affiliates, I think, are the best consumer marketers. And then you
Mm.
go up one level to e-commerce, you're also kind of in a commoditized product. You're just selling like consumer goods that, are not hyper differentiated. There's no like tech edge. There's basically it's a branding edge unless
Mm.
it's a completely new invention. But for a lot of these categories like food and beverage and clothing and beauty, skincare and stuff like this, a lot of it is just the same product just repackaged. So you're also very competitive in that space. So the marketing tactics have to be better. And then consumer tech, like now there's still some barrier to entry to building an app, but um, it's becoming less and less. So like
Mhm.
I'm even seeing like people in the consumer tech world now complaining about people copying their apps, but then the ecom guys are just like, that's just the game. Like
Right, right. This is
the
every
more the
business.
product becomes commoditized, like the more you're gonna get copied. So
Mm.
yeah, but I think there's a good thing. Like
Mhm.
yeah, the more competitive the marketing, the more advanced the tactics get, and it's fun to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's really interesting. So, just taking a step back a little bit, um, at the very beginning of this topic, you basically mentioned that, like, hey, like, um, there was sort of like a really big, I would say, like, step, right, when people recognized that. you could get a lot of eyeballs on things without having like a really large audience or a really, big mass of followers, right? Just by virtue of the way that the TikTok algorithm worked, and then which eventually shifted like the Instagram Reels algorithm. Like you didn't need these massive followers or influencers to put your product in front of a lot of different people. And I feel like that sort of was like one of the steps in creating this new sort of like meta of distribution, right? In terms of getting, whether it was e-com or affiliate or even apps at this point, it sort of spawned this whole new set of strategies for people competing with Edge, right? And so something that I'm really curious to hear a little bit more about is, you've mentioned this in some other podcasts, and you even mentioned it on this podcast right now. Like, it's not necessarily about TikTok per se. It's more so about figuring out what this like underpriced distribution edge is, right? So I'd love to learn a little bit more about that. Like what are some pieces of alpha or strategies that some founders in the Consumer Club have been applying when it comes to finding this sort of like edge in distribution?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, as perfectly articulated. I feel like people are focused on TikTok, but even within TikTok, there's like micro trends. So,
Mm.
I want to show you a couple of things. So
Yeah.
I'm just a student of the scroll. So I stole that phrase from someone else. Like, they were like, "How do you like find all these ideas?" I'm like, "Oh, I just like scroll TikTok a lot, and then I save them in bookmark folders, and then I think about like, wait, why did that make me feel something?" And I put it into the
Mm.
category of folder. So I just study this stuff because it's fun to
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
But here's an example of like here's all my bookmark folders. I'm just sharing screen,
Yeah.
but for example, like Talking Head, um, this format is several years old. So this is kind of like the classic like influencer video. Like, hey guys, today I'm going to talk to you about whatever like product. So this is still like kind of big. And with an app, you kind of have to show the product somehow. Like with
Mhm.
e-commerce, it's really easy. You hold it in your hand. You can like
Right.
show it on video. But with apps, it's a little bit tricky. You have to like figure out how to show it on the screen. So one way is just like green screen. So you can just put it behind you,
Mm.
and then have like the talking head like green screens in front of you.
Mhm.
Another way is like phone app demo. So if you have like you literally put the phone in front of your other phone to
Right.
record record what's happening on the screen and show yourself using the app.
Mhm.
Um, but Talking Head, I mean, this is like a couple years old. A couple of the newer things, like it kind of shifted last year to slideshows when people
Mhm.
realized like you could just get a lot of views by doing TikTok carousels and
Mhm.
slideshows instead of like full videos. And
Mhm.
there's some alpha in this because it's so easy to make. Like for example, these ones, like they're they're like they're these like story time things where it's like
Right.
here's the truth about visiting Japan, and then there's just filler slides with
Mhm.
kind of interesting content, and then at the end they plug some product. So this one is for the shower head. Like, oh, by the way, they Japan has these water filters in all their shower heads. And
Plug.
oh, I just realized like, oh, you don't even need to go to Japan to get these. They're on Amazon. Like, what what do you know? They're on Amazon.
Right.
So
Crazy. And this has like what? Millions of, I see it has almost a quarter million
200,000.
likes, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this one has 200,000 likes. I don't know how many views it has, but they make this account and then
Mhm.
they post it. They post these videos
Mhm.
like every day. So not every video hits, but I mean they're getting around 5, 10,000 views per video, and then some of them really hit, and it's like a million, 2 million views.
Yeah, which is crazy because they're basically like a paragraph or two worth of text, and they're turning that, and in some like filler photos, right? And they're turning that into like millions of eyeballs for distribution. Like what would previously take tens of thousands of dollars to pump that on like Facebook ads or Google ads. Like you're basically getting for um, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes of your time, and like really well structured, like but broken up into a few paragraphs worth of writing. Like that's crazy. right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so and this sort of like leads into the trend that you were mentioning earlier, where basically app founders are like learning from people who have been doing this for a while in ecom, and obviously people who do like affiliate are all competing for the same kind of attention. And I feel like this leads to like another interesting kind of segue, which is like um, I feel like as we're getting closer and closer, and ecom people are probably like really well versed in this, but ultimately like the two things that are going to really like determine some of the success of your business is one, like your ability to capture attention, right? And then your ability to convert that attention into like a download or a purchase, or that sort of thing. So I'd be curious to know a little bit more about how people are discussing that like within the consumer club. I know that there's a really big emphasis on generating attention, but I'd be curious to know sort of what people are thinking about for actually converting that attention into a download. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, organic and ads are a little bit different. Like if you come from the world of Facebook ads, you're used to just forcing your content in front of people's eyeballs by
Mm-hmm.
paying Facebook money. But with organic, you're kind of you have to you have to hack the algorithm,
Mm-hmm.
which the algorithm is really just how do you hack attention and then hold attention long enough to plug your product.
Mm-hmm.
So like um, like some other formats that I've seen working are just these storytelling. I mean, you kind of saw it with the slide shows too, but as long as you have to talk about the products. Like so in the influencer marketing days, you would just get a bunch of views and then you'd have a call to action at the end and say, hey guy, okay, today I'm going to be talking about these pain points. Hey, do you relate to this or this? Well, I have a solution for that. Here's my promo code. Use this code at checkout for 20% off. And
Mm-hmm.
then people will go into the influencer's link in bio and then click the link. But like people don't really click links in bios anymore,
Mm-hmm.
especially for apps. It's kind of hard to like put an app store link in your bio, especially if you have like other links that you want to promote, and the conversion rate's just not very good. So a lot of
Right.
times what people actually are doing is they're just closing the app. Like they see a TikTok video, they literally close the app, they go to the app store and they search the name of the app that was mentioned in the video. So a lot of times the call to actions are a lot softer. Um, I mean, even with like Cal AI,
Mm-hmm.
they don't even mention the app at all. They just show the app and the name of the app on the screen. So I'm seeing like the call to actions being a lot lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, one of the members of Consumer Club, Laurent, he's the founder of Focus Tree,
Mm-hmm.
and he uses these faceless creators in the study talk niche, where there's these students showing their books and their aesthetic like study setups, and in a couple of seconds they flash like the screen of Focus Tree, and a lot of times the conversion actually happens in the comments where
Mm.
people since it got flashed and it was like an interesting novel interface. It's like, oh, you're using this app that has like a digital tree like for your focus. What are you talking about? Like, what is that app? And then the creator will reply to the comment and say, oh, it's Focus Tree. And that kind of takes advantage of the behavior of people reading the comments and scrolling through comments as they're watching videos. And people do that because it feels like a social experience.
Totally.
Um,
Wait,
so
that's super interesting. So let's double click on that for a bit, because you mentioned two apps that I think have done that kind of like marketing really well. So Cal AI, I think is the first one you mentioned, and for those who don't yet know, Blake Anderson and Zach, who built Cal AI, and one of the ways that they like um, really rocketed to success was by doing this sort of like this distribution hack where sort of like a mini niche in and of itself, where they showed like the screen with predominantly like sort of like fitness related content, right? Like people going to the gym and then like making this like really healthy food, and then very very briefly, only for like a second or two, using the app to like scan the food to get the caloric content. Don't mention it otherwise. And that's like that has also been popularized by Laurent with Focus Tree, right? Just in a different vertical, studying versus calorie tracking. This is awesome. Yeah. So I think you can actually kind of see it, right? It's like this really quick kind of like cut frame where you're only seeing the app, maybe even for like half a second, right? And this is interesting because it kind of like builds intrigue and curiosity. And you kind of mentioned it earlier where people then take to the comments to try and figure this out. I've sort of likened this as like the comment section of TikTok is where the conversion kind of happens. It's kind of like the Reddit, comments are actually where all the gold is found, or it's sort of like a little mini Yelp review for what the app is. Can you speak a little bit more on that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it goes a couple layers deep. So like you can convert people on the like in the comment section of the video itself. You can also reply to a comment and um, make another video out of like a video reply, and that will first of all show it to the person that you're replying to. Like it'll directly show up in their notifications. But then a lot of times, if you're scrolling through TikTok, sometimes you'll find if you really enjoyed a video, like the next day, you're gonna see that reply because you engaged so deeply with that original video. So it's almost like a Facebook retargeting campaign
Mm.
where
Hmm.
you're targeting the same people that engaged with that original video with the video reply. So sometimes the video reply is where the conversion happens as well, where someone in the comment says, what is the app? And then you reply to that and say, and then that's where you hard sell because now you're able to retarget all those millions of people that watched the first video and then actually follow up with the CTA the next day or the next few hours whenever you make the video.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but yeah, definitely. I mean, TikTok comment sections are great source of just market research, like seeing what people are very unfiltered in TikTok comment sections.
Definitely.
You can see like the the heartbeat of of like culture and like what people are actually thinking.
Definitely, heartbeat is such a good way to describe it. So for someone who's like starting out and building consumer app, what's like the one two three checklist that you would give to them if they wanted to start basically get started with like marketing through TikTok for their app? Like, what direction would you point them in, other than consumer club being the first step? What would you point them towards?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if it's your first business, like first business or first app, like do you have
I would
some experience?
Yeah, that's a good clarification. I think just to make it easier, let's say that you're not new to like business or app building, but you want to get more involved in like sort of like TikTok distribution or a method of distribution that isn't just like forcing eyeballs via paid ads. Like, where would you point someone?
Right, right. Um, yeah, the thing is like the viral ideas, like there isn't necessarily a an existing viral idea for every single app. So a lot of times it
Mm.
actually starts with the um, reverse engineering, like what would make a good viral moment on TikTok, and then building that as a feature into your product. So to go back to Cal AI, it's basically what Cal AI was. Like the real retention and like what makes Cal AI a business is the calorie tracking. It's like
Hmm.
retaining the user every day, telling them here's over time how many calories you're eating and the macros, which is the same thing as MyFitnessPal, but who was the dominant app in this space for a long time. But Cal AI is like it's the it's using the AI vision to look at take a picture of your food and then do the calorie tracking. So the main part of the app is not even really the scan; it's really the tracking. So if you have an app and let's say it's like workout tracking, you might not be able to make a viral TikTok out of just workout tracking. So a lot
Right.
of times it comes down to like, how do I how do I think of um, a piece of content that's already out there on TikTok that gets views already, and then how do I turn that into slightly change, modify that to make it turn it into a video that plugs my product. So
Mm.
I can give another screen share.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
I'm gonna plug this tool. I actually built this tool, so just shilling my own stuff right now.
That's
But
that's what we want. Yeah.
I built the tool because of just the insights of people in Consumer Club and trying to figure out like how do you get that, find those winning formats that promote products. So let's say you're
Mm.
in like, um, let's say you're doing like something like with mental health, or like a lot of these AI uh, wrapper apps are using either voice or chat to like talk people through journaling or mental health issues, or things like that. So
Hmm.
um, one thing you can do is you can do this on TikTok search too. You can just search for videos, but if we want to find like, okay, what is out there already? So let's just find like ADHD, mental health, journaling. Sometimes like think of adjacent niches, like, oh, people who are having like relationship problems there.
Mm.
Maybe that's a source of like mental health issues. So relationships. So let's just search some of these keywords, and then let's find videos that are currently doing well in those niches, and
Mm.
then figure out how do we slightly modify these videos to plug an app
Mm.
instead. So like some of these, um, so
First off,
ADHD.
such a sick tool that you just pull all the metrics on that like right from the jump.
Yeah, yeah. So we have the main metrics like views, engagement, but then the number here is like how many times more views did this video get compared to the median engagement for that account.
Hmm.
So this is like, it's not just the account is a strong account, it's that the video itself actually did better than the account. So that means like the algorithm is picking it up, and it's not just getting views because of the followers. So let's remove ADHD keyword because that's like seems to be taking up everything.
Hmm.
Um, here's a great format.
Yeah.
So here's
Things fall
this is an interesting format. It's like a 7-second video that just has the song playing in the background and some B-roll of anything like
apart,
a car,
and time breaks your heart.
and it's just long text. So it's a hack where the video loops over and over again because people are taking a long time to read the thing. So
Mm-hmm.
then in the TikTok analytics, the watch time is like 5x retention because
Right.
people watch the video like 5 times in
Right.
order to read the whole text. But then the text has to actually be good and like interesting. So this one
Hmm.
says, "My therapist told me when someone constantly asks if you like or love them, or if you're mad at them, it's not because they're." So it's just kind of this um, tidbit about mental health and therapy. But then you could you could definitely plug some sort of app, maybe hint at some kind of app, but
Hmm.
then not name the app because that might be a little bit too aggressive. And then
Hmm.
maybe some people in the comments will be like, "Oh, like any apps you recommend to, deal with this issue," and then you can plug the app. So,
Totally. Totally. Yeah.
yeah,
It's all, I've seen a few apps like take advantage of that where you have, and there, I think the interesting thing with all of these is like there are layers and like metas to each individual layer, right? Like I've seen, yeah, I think something that a lot of people would be familiar with is like Minecraft B-roll, right? In the background where there's like someone playing Minecraft, like jumping around on different blocks.
yeah,
In this case, it's like the video of someone driving right with like text on it, and it's interesting because they all are trying to accomplish the same thing, right? But the way that they like hack attention, or the way that their hooks are just like slightly different, is really 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 intriguing. And Yeah, I guess I'd love to know a little bit more about sort of like what inspired you to like want to even build this tool in the first place, because I imagine that a lot of people were probably trying to do this manually, right? By like going through accounts and seeing what the, median views were for someone's videos, and then, like using a spreadsheet to calculate this. So I'd be curious to know a little bit more about what like drove the inspiration for building this.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just like how do you make this type of marketing feel more scientific and more predictable? Because a lot of times it just feels like a lottery. You post a TikTok and then you don't know like why it went viral, why it didn't go viral, but it's just like because TikTok is, it's a content graph. Like the content itself is what gets the views based on engagement or retention, whatever. So if you can find those videos that are already doing well, then um, it's just a hack to find to get views and to validate your market first before maybe even before launching, or like even before like hiring expensive influencers that are
Mm.
like more expensive, like high production content, you can hire creators to just copy videos, and you can pay a lot less for that compared to giving a creator like free reign over the full creative direction of the video, just saying like, hey, make a video for me promoting this app. Then they have to storyboard it, do the research themselves. But if you just say, hey, here's a video that you can just copy it like second for second and just modify this little part, then you're doing the creative, and then you're just paying the creator for their time, uh, instead of like their creativity. So yeah, a lot of people in Consumer Club were trying to figure out, okay, how do you not pay like $1,000, $2,000 just for one video?
Right.
And like the answer a lot of times is just hiring people, like doing the creative yourself, and then giving creators like a really well defined brief. So this is just a way to do that. But I mean, if you have creators that make high production videos too, like you can give them these videos as well.
Leverage that. Yeah, totally. And for anyone who has experimented with influencer marketing, I think it's really funny because you'll go and talk to like an influencer, and they'll say like, hey, I want, $2,000 or $3,000 for this video, and you'll have to pay me like a retainer fee on top of that. And it's funny because, they might post the video on TikTok and it could flop. It could get like 800 views. So this is kind of a way to protect against that, right? It's like you're able to sort of create these with a more scalable blueprint in a more sort of like scientific or at least measurable way, without having to like rely on this audience that may or may not come through from you actually paying an influencer.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and this still relies on you like deciding that this content has somewhat of like commercial intent. So you can't just like get views and then magically just hope that it'll get conversions. Like there should be some hypothesis behind why you're choosing this type of content. Like for this one, for example, I see the last line is like, hey, did you know people who struggle with anxiety, depression, can't remember a lot, blah, blah, blah. And the last line says, if this is you, maybe this account can help. That is a call to action. That's saying like, hey, check out this TikTok account. But you could change that CTA to something like, if this is you, maybe you should try out meditation apps, or maybe you should try out, something else. And then that's like the CTA. So there should still be some sort of like goal to getting the views.
Right. That's actually a really good distinction that I think is probably worth calling out. Like, I think a lot of people get started in this game and they start to have tunnel vision on views. But I think that there's a really important distinction there, that just because your video gets, 1 million, 2 million views, if you don't have the right kind of content with like a good CTA, that won't necessarily translate to like app downloads, right? And I think that that's probably a frustration that a lot of people have to hurdle first, because if you've never made any content before and you're just getting started, you have to have that whole bridge of like learning how to make the content and learning how to, hack attention, and then actually, create something that sustains attention beyond just the first second. But then how can you shape the content to actually like generate that sort of curiosity or intrigue, right?
Yeah.
Those are two very different things.
One shortcut to that is like, if you know somewhat of the current meta of what types of content do get views and convert, you can specifically look out for that type of content and then iterate on that. So for example, like if you know that phone in hand content converts well for apps, you can just find like phone screen and then find videos that actually show a phone screen on the video. So that's another thing that another use case for this tool. But like just scrolling TikTok as well, like if you ever find videos that are like that sell an app or that have a phone on the screen, or exist in the format that you want to replicate, then you should save those in bookmarks.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that that's something that's like really interesting, right? Is like, I think people can kind of tend to like overthink it, but there is something like inherently just like interesting about literally showcasing the app like up front, right? Like some of these videos end up doing really really well. I think that you can kind of focus it and shape it to be a little bit more interesting. Like for example, CalAI's marketing techniques, right? They're only showing it for like a second or two. But if you're just starting out, I think that this is like a reasonable way to get started and see, how you can at least start to get better at like the skill of creating content. And obviously, this is like a really good tool that you can use to be like, okay, here's what a lot of other apps are doing, and here's their videos, and it's actually working really well, right? This is like a great way to actually get started with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's take it a step back. Something that is really interesting about Consumer Club is outside of just like focusing on like distribution metas and strategies, you're actually hosting events for people, right? So I think I saw this morning you tweeted that you love meeting founders in New York City. It looks like you hosted a founder dinner with just like a really impressive group of attendees. I'm just reading off of your Twitter, and you say a 400K MRR study app, a dating app with over 300,000 downloads from TikTok organic with zero spent on ads, someone posting 15 UGC vids per day. Yeah, like would love to hear a little bit more about one, the events that you're hosting with Consumer Club, and then two, specifically this, like what are some of the most interesting tidbits that you pulled from this dinner or things that you think might just be worth sharing in general.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, this was interesting. So this last one blew my mind a lot because I've always thought that you can only post 3 videos per day. Like it's sort of like this meta like common knowledge if you're in the space that you can't post more than 3 times a day on an account or else you're probably going to get shadow banned by TikTok. Um, but the way that this guy does it is basically he just has 5 accounts per phone and still post 3 times per day. So it ends up being 15 videos per day, but across 5 different accounts. But then each person who has a phone can now do it 15 per day. So like per like for the whole operation, it's 15 times however many people he
That's
has.
crazy scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So this is the guy that Alex tweeted about, who's like, Alex came to the dinner as well, but he was saying how he actually flew to like this founder flew to the Philippines, gave iPhones with US SIM cards to his creators, and then trained them on how to warm up the accounts, the posting times, make sure you don't like post 15 all on the same account, make sure you like spread it out in this way.
right.
So this is just very like, yeah, he just kind of like understood all the different pieces and then just executed it like really, really well.
That's crazy dedication. So, and just for those who don't know, like within Consumer Club, and I would say just like this part of Twitter in general, people are like sharing insights about like metas for distribution, and one of those things that we mentioned earlier is like there seems to be a correlation between posting a lot, posting more than 3 to 5 times a day and then not getting any views on the subsequent videos after. And so this guy really just took things into his own hands, got a bunch of phones with US SIM cards so he could ensure that he was reaching a US audience, right? And then basically took this upon himself to go scale the operation, which is crazy. Yeah, so I guess I would love to hear a little bit more about some of the other interesting things that you found from these consumer events. I know that you hosted a consumer event in LA. There's, as you see here, the consumer tech cabal. Yeah, would love to hear a little bit more about some interesting things that you've gleaned from like the founders in this area.
Yeah, yeah, LA was fun. Nikita Beer showed up to our LA mixer. We hosted it at this mansion at the Wambo House, and it was yeah, Nikita showed up. Like some of the people who are in this like sort of consumer social, but actually pretty monetized space. So like the NGL founders came, and yeah, it was really interesting to hear from them too, because they've been in this for a long time. Like they were like some of the founders were they did Zoom University. I don't know if anyone remembers like the Facebook group Zoom University, like back in 2020, and they kind of like I don't know how they did that, but maybe it was just keyword. They're like the first Facebook group to like hop onto the like Zoom University concepts, but they built a they built a mobile app out of the
Mm.
concept of Zoom University and like a video. I think it was like a video streaming thing. But then they moved on to do NGL, and then now Hunter is doing bags. Um, but yeah, I mean, these people, they're also just very hacky mindset. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, they're like some of these apps are making millions a year just cash flowing, but they're like, yeah, they definitely have like the distribution um, mindset. I mean, for NGL, it was the high schools like seeding high schools with the influencer accounts and stuff. I think it just comes down to like understanding human nature. Because I think one thing with the high school accounts is like the main psychology principle behind that was you if you're a kid in high school and you get followed by a private account and it has the name of your high school plus the app name, like
Mm.
let's say it's NGL whatever high school, and then the logo of the account is like your high school's logo plus like the app or whatever, like you're gonna be pretty interested. It's almost like alumni
Totally.
networks, like if you see someone
Totally.
else that went to your same college, there's just it is immediate like trust.
Hmm.
Um, or someone who also worked at the same company as you, there's just this like tribal like feeling that you get. So they followed everyone in the high school um, with these accounts, and then they got a lot of follow backs, and then the first post that they post on that account is going to have all these eyeballs of like the kids in that school,
Right.
so it gets a boost. So
Hmm.
it's yeah, like stuff like that where they just have like this insight into, if we tried this, I bet this would be very powerful, like
Right.
psychologically.
Right. And then you're referring to like NGL. This is the same kind of like genre of like questionnaire app that like Nikita Beer obviously has like done two times over. Like this distribution method where they basically like primed all these high school students, right, to get ready to like download the app, and then they launched it at once,
Yep.
um,
Yeah.
which is crazy. I mean, I guess the other thing that a lot of people I think would be curious to know is like I think that there's this notion that like, oh no, are things like, is this like drop shipping? Like, will there be saturation? Like, can you try like one idea multiple times over and over? Um, I'd be curious to hear your perspective on that, just because I've seen a lot of apps that are almost identical that still fare really well, and to the extent where they're even copying the other's like exact distribution method and channel, like almost like pixel for pixel, like copied on TikTok. Would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there will be copycats, and that's just the game.
Mm.
Like, but I do think that innovation is happening so fast. Like AI innovation is happening so fast. Like a new model comes out like every month, it seems like. And I think that'll enable like 100 new rappers. Every time a new model comes out, there's gonna be like 100 new apps that just attack slightly different markets. There might be like, one, some of these like food scanning apps, like you could probably do a verticalized um,
Mm.
Cal AI that makes a tenth of the revenue, but that's still $2 million a month. I think
Totally.
last time I saw they're making like, well, yeah, they're making 2 million a month, so a tenth of that is like 200K. What if you made Cal AI, but only for like vegans, right? Like
Mm.
it
Hmm.
specializes in like a special like a certain niche.
Hmm.
Um, so you can attack different audiences, or you could just be a first mover into whatever new model that comes out. Like Tollin is this app that launched. They're a member of Consumer Club.
Yeah.
um, they launched a couple of weeks ago, and they hit number one. They're number two in the App Store, and they're just this like AI companion app that talks to you, and it like I'm sure they have some interesting special like AI thing in the background, but from what I can see, like anyone could make something like somewhat similar to this.
Hmm.
Um, Using the newest voice models from OpenAI or Anthropic or Claude or whatever, like DeepSeek, like
Totally.
you and then just reskin it. Like this one, it's like cartoons. Like not everyone's gonna want to download this. They hit number one,
Right.
but some other people might want a completely faceless voice model app, that doesn't have like a character attached, or maybe like one for an older audience. There's just so many different audiences that you can tackle with each new, um, yeah, different audiences, different products, with each new like tech innovation that comes out.
Totally, yeah, and that's super interesting because it's like it kind of harkens back to what you were describing earlier, right? Which is where I guess it kind of goes against conventional product building in the sense where it's like you almost start with distribution in mind, right? Like you start with that like viral TikTok moment, or you start with like what that's going to look like, and then build outward from that. And like you've worked in tech, like you understand sort of like what the traditional like product building model is. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about like it's kind of crazy that you could sort of start with what does the TikTok video look like, and then build outward from that, right? Like to think like, say you're gonna do the vegan Cal AI, and your edge there is literally just targeting vegans, right? And you accept that you're not gonna hit $2 million a month, but like even if you hit a tenth of that, right? Like that would be like life changing for a lot of people. Um,
Yeah.
so I'd be curious to hear like, from the people in Consumer Club, do you feel like there's been this like shift towards starting with like the content, like starting with the media, starting with the distribution, and working backwards from there?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, um, yeah, I think starting with the content, like I've heard people refer to it as like start with the channel. So like if you deeply study, or you at least like understand, the channel where your target customer is. So let's say it's TikTok, just knowing what the content is going to look like first, um, yeah, can definitely help. Because if you don't know what it's going to look like, then you start with a product, and then you build it, and then it comes time to market it, and then you're like, okay, like what content should we do? And then at that point, it might be too late, because like maybe there is no content that will ever resonate with the
Mm.
audience that you're trying to go after. So I think it's like a way to de-risk. Um, I think like tech building in general, like I think the reason why people come at it from the opposite is because consumer tech has always been about winner take all. Like everyone wants to be the next
Right.
Facebook. So you just have to make a really great product. It doesn't have to resonate with a very specific audience on a specific channel. You just have to make a good product and then seed it to, in Facebook's case, it was just seed it to all the colleges, and then everyone else will use it. But with consumer products these days, you don't have to beat Facebook to build, just to build a $10 million business or a
Hmm.
$1 million business. You can, um, you can start with distribution, attack it from almost like in a way that an e-commerce founder would do it. So,
Right.
um, yeah, there's definitely people. I mean, I've talked to some recent Consumer Club members. Uh, they're anonymous because they're like, they have VC funding, and they come
Hmm.
and talk to me, and they're like, I actually don't really like my company anymore because we're going after this
Really?
like broad giant market,
Yeah.
and I'm seeing all these kids making $10 million on
Right.
AI wrappers, and I kind of would rather just like start with distribution, think of an idea that's TikTok viral, because like they're they had this big idea, and now it's time to market it, and they've been grinding for like a year or two, or like multiple years trying to get users, but
Right.
then like they're seeing all these kids just doing like going viral on TikTok, making millions like right now, cash flow,
Right.
and they're they're getting FOMO. So I think
Totally.
it's kind of funny just seeing seeing like the shift in the way that people are thinking about building businesses.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, again, all due respect to Zach and Blake for building Cal AI into the like whatever $25 million a year business it is, but I can imagine for VC backed founders who have been grinding for years, and then just being literally undercut by like, you know, kids who like don't have that much experience but obviously have like the knowledge and the executional skills. I can imagine that would feel like, sort of a cut at the knees.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting segue into sort of this like, I guess, broader sort of like question of like saturation, right? Because like as more and more people learn about the success that some kids or other people are having with sort of these like smaller businesses, like the ability to get started right away, the ability to generate like meaningful revenue, right, within 30, 60 days. I think there's sort of like the obvious question of like, at what point does this run out? And so what I really want to ask about is, I think you had a tweet a few weeks ago where you said, hey, if you're an app founder and you want to know what's next for underpriced distribution, just look at ecom. And you said, like, there are basically these trends that have occurred over the past, 4 years. And so in 2021, you said it was influencers, right? In 2022, it was like TikTok, mass UGC. This is kind of like that Oliver Mercado, like Tabs chocolate sort of strategy, right? In 2023, it was slides, and obviously, a lot of these still work today. And then you have for 2024, HeyGen with slides behind, and you say Flux avatars in 2025. So can you expand on this tweet a little bit and
Yeah.
describe some of these things?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, every time like someone sees that a format works, then a bunch of marketers come in and copy it, and then it saturates. So then you have to find a new format that works better. So, with ecom, there's this progression, and all of these still work. I mean, even within ecom, it's just like what is the newest edge. But influencers, yeah, like I mean, even like if you talk to the biggest companies, like the most like boomer companies, they don't even know what influencer marketing is. They've never even heard of it.
Crazy.
So we're still like
Crazy.
very early. Like in that tweet, I said influencer it was the old way, but
Yeah.
like for most people, it's still the new way. Like we're on the
Right.
cutting edge of this. So like
Right.
yeah, UGC, mass UGC obviously still works. Slides still work. HeyGen with slides, I'm just referring to like instead of just the slides that are like a pure carousel, it's
Mhm.
more like you put the AI actor. So now there's like you can AI generate these faces, and they're fake people, and they
Mhm.
they can speak and emote and like on screen. I can show you an example. Like
Yeah.
and you put the slides in the background.
13 years as a Korean plastic surgeon, yet no one.
So you can put the same slides that you would normally put in a carousel, you just put in the background, and
Mhm.
then you put the green screen like AI actor in the foreground, um, and have them like you can use 11 Labs to narrate the voice.
Right.
HeyGen, I think, does all of this for you, um, and yeah, this is going crazy in the
Wait,
e-commerce
this is
world.
crazy. So this is an AI generated person, right?
Yeah, this is fake person.
Like very few people, unless you're like in this space. Like if you're just scrolling TikTok, like you're not really gonna recognize that, right? Like
Yeah,
crazy, crazy. And really the advantage of this is that you can just scale this in like an absurd way, right? It's sort of like the main advantage. Like instead of you having to either hire someone or talk into your phone yourself, you can generate all of this with like all these different variations for like script and that sort of thing really quickly.
yeah, yeah. You can use, I mean, there's so many AI tools now that are doing it. I mean, HeyGen is one of them, ArcAds, like, if you just Google search like AI avatar, or AI UGC actor, it's basically like the UGC actor, format, but then you just use AI to like make it faster and cheaper.
Hmm.
So yeah, and like people like I hear two complaints about this. The
Yeah.
one complaint is like, oh, this looks like how like this like if you listen to the voice, like you can tell it's not a real person.
On link in my bio. Can't possibly share all of the secrets I
Like
learned.
how are you gonna like people are not that dumb. But like you look
Right.
at the comments, and like there's a call to action. It's like, oh, comment this word. People are literally just commenting the word. Like they're they're treating this as a normal person. There's one comment here that says, "This is AI," crying emoji. The next one is like, "OMG, bro! It took me a sec to notice." Like
That's
so like
crazy.
the average person, I think, just can't tell anymore. I think it's like, and there's some ethical concerns with this as well. Like I'm
For
not
sure.
going to go into that, but you
Mhm.
can use your own judgment for what like how you want to do this. But um, yeah, there. Yeah, I don't know if you had more to say to that, but I wanted to show you another format as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really sick. I would love to see the other format.
Yeah. So there's also this other format. um, I call it like faceless storytelling.
Mm.
So instead of doing the AI generated face, you just ignore the face completely, and then you just use B-roll. So you just do AI
Mm.
voice instead of face. So
Oh, that's
eventually,
interesting.
I
Yeah.
could see a world where faces become not trustworthy, less trustworthy
That's
than
interesting.
voices in a way. Like right now, like AI, avatars are trustworthy because it's like, oh, it's a human saying this. But then eventually, once people catch on that, oh, anyone can just fake a face, then eventually we might go back to voice, where voices are more trusted than faces. So this video is telling a story about Erewhon smoothies, and they're just using B-roll of
Hmm.
Erewhon smoothies,
Hmm.
and the health benefits and stuff. Um, and there's just an AI voice, but the AI voice sounds really good. And then at the end they promote this
Oh,
adaptogenic
interesting.
mushroom like supplement thing. So this
Right.
is another format of like using AI to mass produce content.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I feel like a theme that we're like seeing with all of these is like there's some kind of trend, and then there's like saturation because people copy that, and then there's almost like an inversion of that, right? As like a way to get like back on the trend, right? Like so for instance in this case, like this is like very very bleeding edge, but just as an example, like that what you just referenced, right? Like faces becoming untrustworthy, so then you're going back to voices, right? And it's like then the inversion on that would probably be using a face again, and like sometimes. So it's interesting because I guess what I've noticed, and I'd be curious if this is your perspective too, is like it literally is a playground. Like there are some things that are like slightly evergreen if you know how to like harness like the current zeitgeist of things. Like slides will probably be around forever, right? It's just like how can you tweak it just like a little bit to like maintain that attention. So it's really funny because I feel like a lot of people, at least from Superwall's perspective, they'll be like, hey, like what are some things that you're seeing with like successful companies when it comes to like marketing and that sort of thing. And I feel like there's no right answer. Like it is literally a playground. Like it's up to whomever to like go experiment, right? And there's like no right like one way to skin the proverbial cat.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think one thing that people get scared of when I talk about, or when like TikTok is brought up, is like, oh, I don't want to be a part of this like inauthenticity where you're just like spamming content. But like you said, there's the inversion that happens, and like if you can follow the trend, yeah, but then you can also pave your own trends too. Like,
Hmm.
once people get sick of one format, there's a market for authenticity. Like people do want authentic content, whatever form that comes in, whether it's like voices instead of faces, or, I mean, this is a YouTube example, but I like to think about Sam Sulek. So there's this like
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
bodybuilder guy, but like if you think about like Mr. Beast, it's like, oh, this is the current meta of YouTube. Like
Right.
crazy thumbnail, crazy title, like
Hmm.
crazy faces in the thumbnails, like spending
Right.
tons of money on all the videos, and then you have like Sam Sulek, and he's just this like bodybuilder guy. I mean, he's an impressive bodybuilder, but his
Mhm.
videos are like 40, 50 minutes long, and then there's just these really long take cuts of him just like talking really slowly at the camera,
Right.
and then him just doing exercises, like kind of narrating it. He has a mic, and he just
Right.
has this like calming voice,
Hmm.
and it's like 50 minutes long, and like I don't know who watches this, but it gets me.
Minimal, stripped back, like like very big contrast to like what Mr. Beast is, right? It's just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you're literally watching a guy in the gym, right? Like
yeah. But he's
I think
blowing
that's a
up on the
great
YouTube
example of
algo.
inversion. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He's just blowing up on the YouTube algo. I mean, same with me, right? I posted a
Mhm.
TikTok on a brand new account, and it got 50,000 views on the first video.
Hmm.
And I'm kind of like Sam Sulek a little bit. Like I talk a little bit slowly. I have sort of like a monotone voice, but like I can still get views,
Hmm.
just by like I just literally I did not retention edit the video at all. Like it was a 3 minute long video. I was just
Wow.
rambling like kind of slowly, but
Yeah.
I had a decent hook,
Hmm.
and like it got the views. So I think
Hmm.
like as long as you know kind of the fundamentals of like here's a piece of content that you kind of think people will be interested in, and then you just be yourself, like you can still do well. I'll go.
Totally. I think that's such a great like illumination of, or maybe like rebuttal of like, I don't want to do like inauthentic spamming. Like there are so many different ways that like work for anyone, right? It's just a matter of like getting out there and like trying it yourself. Like I think that that's the other really interesting thing is, I don't know, this might sound like ridiculous, and it is, but like so few people have literally just like picked up TikTok and like talked into their phone, you know? Like very few people have done that, and I feel like they've got caught up in the weeds of like what's like the best thing to do, and it's like you can actually just generate like hundreds of thousands of views just by picking up your phone, which is kind of crazy. Maybe a an uncomfortable truth, but a truth nonetheless.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
the easiest way. You just pick up the phone, start yapping. Just the
Yeah.
practice of speaking into the phone, you'll immediately start to modify it. Like that video that I mentioned that got 50,000 views, it was 2 minutes long, but that video actually took me an hour to finish. Not because I was
Mm,
like hyper editing anything, but because I would talk and then I'd be like, oh wait, that's not good. That's not interesting. Like, let me change the way I said that. And
right.
then I kept doing, I did that like 20 times for
Mm.
like the same, like a few second clip. Um, just like recording yourself with your phone, it kind of like changes the way that you think about marketing because you imagine like someone else watching it. Um, and it becomes a little bit more real.
Totally, totally. No, it is. It's like a mask is like put on or something, right? It's like the stage presence you
Yep.
really comes out. Yeah, it's
Yep.
just funny. Okay, so I wanna take a step back and I want to go back to something that you mentioned earlier, which is like you know some VC backed founders have like seen the success that some of these like bootstrapped founders have with some of these like basically just like smaller scale businesses. And I guess I'd just be curious to see, like, from like a future outlook, from your perspective, like, where do you see like the next big wave of like consumer app success coming from? Like, do you feel like it's going to be more driven by like the more scrappy kind of like younger, like e-com style, like growth hackers or kids, or do you feel like it's going to come? I guess do you feel like the venture backed players are going to be able to like harness those growth strategies and like use their capital advantage to really surpass?
Yeah. Yeah. I want to give like somewhat of a balanced take here. Like I don't think like everyone loves to shit on VC founders because
Mm.
it's easy. Like they have
Mhm.
money, so it's like fun to make fun of them. But
Right.
it's like the capital advantage, yes, but a lot of times the VC founders have a lot of experience and network as well. So they know kind of the game of business and they can use the capital to hire the best experts because they know how to identify the experts. So these kids that are making $1 million a year, well, I don't know, let's say they're making $100,000 a year, but they're actually the best like TikTok growth hackers. They
Hmm.
just don't know how to build technology or like they don't have the experience to build like a lasting business. That TikToker would get a lot of value from being employed by the VC backed founder that has a ton of experience in the space because maybe that kid wants to become, you know, an app founder someday. So
Mm.
I think that the VC founders that actually are thoughtful about leveraging the current distribution channels, like they they will win just as much as the scrappy kids and probably more because they have the capital and they have the experience. If you get funded off of pure narrative and you have no like actual experience or no like interest in following the current trends and like really understanding marketing as it is today, then yeah, I don't think they're gonna make it.
Mm. Right.
And
Right.
it's probably better to just be a scrappy kid, like who
Right.
actually knows the market.
Right.
But yeah, the top founders that really know what they're doing and they have the money to invest, then yeah, I think those are the ones who will win the biggest, I think.
Got it. Okay, that's super helpful. It's interesting because I think it kind of reminds me of like I remember I was introduced to this founder whose business was oriented. It was sort of a similar model where they're empowering people who are able to like command attention. So they're going to people who are like really great fitness coaches or like online fitness coaches. Like I think right now there's like that really big meme of like what's the dude's name? Ashton Hall, who's like has the Saratoga like water. He's like dumping his face in the bowl. He's like rubbing the banana peel on his face. So anyway, their business was like basically going to these people who are able to like command massive amounts of attention and building an app for them. And you mentioned this really early on at the beginning of this podcast, but it's like it's a really interesting, like apps are a very interesting revenue channel because unlike like a physical good like e-com, right, the margins are much higher. Like the distribution is far easier because you don't have to deal with like shipping logistics, and you also can harness like recurring revenue that you might not otherwise get if you just sold someone like a PDF on Gumroad, right? So I'd be curious to know if you've seen anyone sort of like trying to contact you or come into this space who's like, hey, I don't really know much about this business, but like I have this really big audience, or I have the ability to market this sort of app to the people who follow me. Have you seen anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, this happens several times a week.
Mm.
There's this guy who just joined Consumer Club. He's well, I'll just screen share so that we can help this guy find a co-founder. But
Nice.
let me screen share. He's a poker influencer,
Mm.
and he went viral on Reels this past year. Did really well, Slick Rick Poker, and his Reels get a lot of views, and they're pretty simple. They just do like have relatable captions about poker, and he's a pro. Like he plays in tournaments and stuff, but then he's relatable at the same time, and he's young. He's also an MBA student, so he's actually like he's business minded as well, but he just doesn't have a ton of experience in apps. So he joined Consumer Club because he's like, hey, I have this audience. I'm looking for like someone to with the product and technical experience, like build an app. He's going to build a poker app. So
That's
um,
so sick. I think
yeah,
that's such a good example. And you're seeing like it's not just him, right? There are multiple people who are coming to you for this
yeah,
sort
yeah. I mean, like I'm
of stuff.
advising. I don't know if you know like Alex Lieberman,
Yeah, Morning Brew.
but yeah, he founded Morning Brew, newsletter business, but he has all these other like agency businesses as well, and now he's looking to start an app too. So he's gonna. I connected him with someone in Consumer Club.
Hmm.
They're co-founding. I'm advising,
Hmm.
and they're doing an app. I don't know how much is public, so I won't leak it. But
Sure.
they're yeah, but they're like Alex. Doesn't build apps, but he
Hmm.
has the audience and he has a lot of connections to other influencers in his niche, which is like the young business professional or entrepreneur. So
Right.
um, yeah, people all sorts of backgrounds.
Right. That's super sick. I love that a lot. Yeah, I feel like that's something that we will start to see more and more, right? It's like apps is like a revenue channel for people who have audiences. And then the last thing that I really wanted to touch on is like it kind of it all harkens back to like building, starting with that like TikTok moment. I've seen some people talk about this on Twitter. Some people talk about it in Consumer Club, where they can see a world where like apps are content, or like the content is apps. And I think like a really good example of this, again building from a lot of what we've talked about previously, is Oasis. I think it was initially Oasis water app, and now it's Oasis health app. And Cormac, who's one of the Consumer Club founders, I think has like done this exceptionally well, where he's all of the content for this is basically just like him green screening himself, like talking head style over a background of Oasis app. And I think he did really well because he's like talking about, I think the app initially started out as just water, like it would rank water quality for different kinds of like water brands, and now he's expanded out into like air quality, and even like protein bars is his next segment. And so I think it's easy to see sort of like the expansion of this, right? Where you started out with the niche in water, you established some form of like domain authority, you have eyeballs, you have views, and then you expand out from there. And as far as I'm aware, I think it's just like a one person business. Like I don't know, what his operations look like, but
Yeah.
be curious to sort of, I guess, learn a little bit more about your perspective when it comes to the idea of like content as apps, in that space in general.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I did it too in a way with Consumer Club. Like I just started
Yeah.
Consumer Club started, it was a group chat of the most interesting app founders I knew at the time, and they were doing really crazy growth hacks, and they're just talking about it in the group chat. And then I started tweeting about it, and I wasn't building I mean, I was building apps myself, but I wasn't a successful app founder.
Mm.
I just started tweeting about the growth hacks, and I think my skill is just like articulating concepts in a way that people understand, and also just scavenging. Like I'm a obsessive researcher, and I talk to like dozens of people a week just because I'm interested in the space.
Right.
But I just started talking about the concepts in public, and then people were like, "Oh, how do I meet other people?" And then so I built the community, and then now people can have a place where they want to meet other people who are doing these tactics. So yeah, it just starts with like getting attention first, and then yeah, a lot of times you can like build later. I had this idea for uh drinks too, like
Mhm.
CPG space. Like I'm really into energy drinks these days, but
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of energy drinks are like kind of cringe, or they're at least like tongue-in-cheek cringe. It's like, haha, I'm drinking
Mm.
Red Bull, but there
Mm.
aren't a lot of like brands that are like, oh, like I'm actually proud to be drinking this energy drink. Like it's
Right.
cool. So I'm trying to like do some research on that, and I had this idea in my head, like, oh, what if I started making threads on like ranking the best energy drinks and like rating them? Like, hey, I
Yeah.
tried 50 of the newest energy drinks so that you don't
Right.
have to. Here's my take on all of them. Like
Mhm.
that could easily become a an energy drink business if I, wanted to get into that business. But
Right.
yeah, just like thinking about the content first and then
Mm.
building an audience of people that really, I mean, that's the other reason why I got into this space. Is like I had a little bit of experience in the newsletter space, so
Mm.
I would like write viral LinkedIn posts saying like, here's how you get this type of job.
Right.
If you want to work in tech but you're non-technical, here's the types of jobs like product marketing and product management and
Mhm.
sales. Like here's these types of jobs, and then I built a newsletter around it because people wanted to keep getting those like job postings and just like educational content. Um, and then that funneled into just advertising. So I would like plug like ed tech programs or talent
Mm.
matching programs, and that was the
Mhm.
monetization. So I ended up not really building a product, but I was advertising other products by just building the media first and then plugging the products.
100%. Okay, so then I have a few more questions for you before we adjourn. But um, in today's age, would you say that media is like a requirement for starting a business? Content and media, is it a requirement?
For consumer, yes.
Hmm.
Like everything is media, right? Like even if
Hmm.
you're doing ads, it's still content. It's just that you're paying for it. Like you end up paying for content in some way. It's either organic, you pay the creator, it's organic, you make it yourself, which is time, time is money, or
Hmm.
you're paying for ads, radio ads, TV ads, Facebook ads, whatever it is. You're just paying for media. So like you don't have to own media to build a business, but you have to interact with media in some kind of way. So um, I think that it's better to own the media, um, just because it's so much easier to do it now than ever before. So why not?
Hmm.
Uh, why not do that instead of like renting other people's audiences and paying for ads continuously? So um, yeah, and it's not a knock on ads either. Like
Right.
I do know that you kind of have to use ads at some point to like scale in certain phases, but having organic just gives you a lot of insights into the audience as well. So I think it's like, I wouldn't really do it any other way.
Totally. Next question. Do you feel like the trend of like building in public will become less popular as like the ability to build products, slowly trends towards zero? Is it too big of a competitive risk to build in public? Because it's like interesting, right? Like you're gaining So like initial eyeballs are like traction by building in public, but you obviously are exposing yourself to, other people who might want to copy you. So I'd be curious to hear what you think about that.
That's really interesting. I think it depends on. I feel like the build in public movement was started in like the indie SaaS space. And
Hmm.
because of that, you got the added benefit of your audience actually buying your product. Um, so you're like building in public was actually it doubled as marketing for your product. But
Right.
if you're like building an app on iOS and then you're talking about and then you market it on TikTok, that's where your main users are, and then you start talking about your strategies on Twitter, then yeah, maybe people are gonna copy you,
Right.
and you don't get as much benefit. But then you do get some benefits because you'll start to meet other people that are really interesting, and you can share tactics. So I think the more commoditized your product is, then maybe you shouldn't talk about it. But if
Hmm.
you're building a more unique product, it can be more worth it to talk about. But also, it just depends on like how trusted the people are. Like if you build like one-on-one connections, you meet person over a video call or you meet person in real life, you know that you're not going to copy each other's stuff. Like
Right.
I think it's totally worth it to share ideas. I'm pretty open with people about like sharing ideas, that I know that we're not competitors.
Right. No, that makes sense. And I think the other thing interesting just to like point out there is I think Blake tweeted this like the other day, but he said something like Cal AI is going to be like the most copycat catted app like on the App Store, which I think is like, it's funny. Like I would generally agree that I think a lot of people are just like creating copycats of Cal AI, but like they're obviously not going to lose because the true edge is in the distribution, right? Like the distribution is the moat. So if you build in public and you can back up your distribution, I don't think there's, as much
Yeah.
of a competitive risk.
Yeah. There's also like the talent pool stuff. Like people are like the most talented growth hackers and iOS developers want to work for Blake and Zach now because
Yeah,
they're cool. Like they have the attention of a lot of different people and people want to work for them. So I think it's smart for them to like even if let's say their competition gets the increased competition drives their business in half even like
mm-hmm.
I would say that's still worth it because like they can start another app like with access to the absolute best talent, and other connections that they're making in the space. So I think it's still worth it, for them at least in the way that they're doing it.
Totally. That makes a lot of sense. And then out of everything that we've discussed, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you wish I had? Is there anything that you want to share that maybe just hasn't come up?
Interesting. Let me think. Mm, I feel like you I feel like you covered I feel like you covered a lot of it. I mean, there's a lot to talk about. We could talk
Yeah.
about. I feel like we could talk about dozens of more things if we thought of the topics. But
Yeah.
um, what's top of mind? Oh, maybe like the concept of agencies. Like I
Yeah.
wish
Let's talk about
people,
that.
I wish more people understood like the concept of agencies a new in a new underpriced distribution channel. Like whenever there's a new underpriced distribution channel,
Mm.
it's underpriced because there's not very many marketers who've mastered the channel.
Hmm.
And everyone comes to me and they're like, "Who's the best organic expert you know?" And like there are none. They're like the ones that are the best are the founders because
Right.
they're the ones who are the most obsessed and they're most financially incentivized to figure out the channel. There's not going to be that many marketers that are willing to just work for you on retainer when they're one of five people in the whole world who know how to do this stuff. So I
Totally.
really think that you need like with underpriced distribution, you kind of have to understand it yourself. Then you can hire someone um, to take over the thing that you figured out.
Totally. Okay, that's really, really interesting. So let's expand that just for people who might not like totally understand the space and what you're talking about. So basically what you're saying is like when it comes to underpriced distribution methods, right? Like in today's age, TikTok. Um, there aren't going to be a lot of agencies who are like really, really good or like really, really effective because the people who are really, really good or really, really effective are just going to be those who are building their own apps themselves, right? Like, like Blake, right? Like probably
Yeah.
one of the best in the world at doing it. And why would he have any incentive to go off and like create an agency when he can just reap all of the benefits himself? So that's
Yep.
really interesting. Yeah, I'd be curious to know a little bit more about like, if say you wanted to get started in this world and you see a lot of agencies with like different offerings, like would you approach them with caution, or how would you think about agencies like, for TikTok in general?
I would approach them with caution and just like, I think there's certain experts and service providers and agencies that do a good job, but I feel like their lifespan is no more than no more than 6 months because either they take on too many clients and then there's the service quality just goes down because there's just too many people to take care of, um, or they're so good that they just decide to stop doing stuff for clients and they just build their own products. So there's a couple of agencies in the space that are literally doing that. If you go on their Twitters, you can see they're like building their own apps now.
Right.
um, and then there are the certain, and then I would also be aware of like people that say, "Oh, we'll just make content for you on autopilot with like a tech platform." But like a tech platform for what? Like to host so that creators can sign up and then but to make content for you, but then that still depends on the creator being good, like the talent.
Mm.
Like it's really all about talent pool.
Hmm.
So it's just about if you have a handle on the space and you have an idea of what type of content you want to make, or what type of content will do well, then it's really about like finding the people who can make that content. And I think you kind of just have to do that yourself. Like it's really hard to just find an expert who can reliably say like, yeah, I know people who will just blow up your app on autopilot. I think we'll definitely get to that point at a certain point, but
Hmm.
um, yeah, I don't want people to just think, oh, this is a TikTok gold rush. Let's get into it, and then the first agency they meet, they're like, oh, this person's gonna solve all my problems. It's just easy to like want to be lazy and like not do
Right.
the work as a founder to like figure out the channel. So
Right. Totally. That's super, super interesting. Um, yeah, that's really, really interesting. I think that the the avoidance of pain, or like the avoidance of like wanting to hop in and talk on the camera, or like hop in and do editing, I think it probably holds a lot of people back from being able to get more downloads, or at the very least just like generate more views. I'd be curious to know a little bit more about like, I'm sure you're in contact with a lot of people who are like really, really interesting. I remember you had a tweet where you were talking about like there are some like 8-figure e-com people who are like trying to move into the consumer app space. Um, one, like let's just take a step back and like think about like the range of people that are in this space, right? Like you have 17-year-olds who have, a $25 million a year business, and at the other end you have like VC backed founders, and you have like 8-figure, e-com people moving into the space. What is like one of the most surprising things that you think you've learned from operating Consumer Club, since its inception?
yeah, I guess, yeah, not like when you mention like some of those people, I my mind immediately goes to um, web to app founders.
Mm.
Like I guess one of the most surprising things is like often there's entire markets of tons of people making a ton of money that you just have no idea about. Like some of the people listening to this pod might be going like, "Wow, I had no idea people are making so much money on TikTok organic." But
Hmm.
then there's so many layers to it. A few weeks ago, or a few months ago, I like found this whole concept of like web to app and like people just building these web funnels where it funnels the person to the iOS app after going through like web. There's a
Hmm.
lot of people making money in that too, and um, a lot of those people come from affiliate or ecom backgrounds. So there's just yeah, there's a lot of channels that you just have no idea exist until you start meeting more people.
Yeah. Okay. So quick Superwall shout out. We're actually building that product, and it is really really sick. So for those who don't know, basically like imagine you're running like a paid Facebook ad or something for your app, and someone clicks on your ad. You can actually run through like a little mini onboarding, on web, and then have them pay at the end of it. Through Stripe, and then you can direct them to download your app, and then they'll have the subscription already, and they won't have to go through the friction of like downloading, onboarding, and then selling them in the app, which I think is just going to be like a crazy boost. Like I think we're going to see a lot of people make like way more money with that sort of like web to app funnel. So quick Superwall plug there.
That's huge. I'm pretty hyped for that launch. I will I'll be spreading that launch to some
Yeah, it's gonna be
right
crazy.
now once it comes out. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been testing internally with it with a few people, and it's really really exciting. So, um, let's see. The another thing that I'd be really curious to hear, your perspective on is like, do you feel like anyone can go and like make an app and like generate like a living for themselves nowadays? Like I feel like we talked earlier that there used to be kind of this like moat or friction in terms of like not everyone knew how to code, not everyone knew how to like stand up an app, but with advancements in AI, like a lot of people are talking about vibe coding. A lot of people on Twitter are asking like, hey, can I do this if I have like no technical knowledge? I'd be curious to hear your perspective. Like, can anyone do this? Like, can anyone go build an app and make money? Like, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I studied CS in college, and like that taught me nothing about coding viral apps. So I feel like the knowledge is just all out there, and the
Mhm.
tools are out there. Like you can use AI coding for your app. I mean, Blake Anderson famously used ChatGPT to build his apps. Um, yeah, I don't think there's like as long as you're smart, like you can just figure stuff out. Like even if you think about like drop shipping with e-commerce, it's still somewhat technical. Like you have to figure out how to use Shopify. That's a tech tool, right? Just like typing in ChatGPT is a tech tool.
Mhm.
Like typing in Shopify in like the no code builder and making sure that it's well designed and copywriting it well and making sure the user experience flows through the checkout and stuff. Like that's somewhat of a technical skill to make a Shopify website. And the same way, there's a technical skill to build an app, but it's
Mhm.
just getting easier with AI. So I think there's still somewhat of a hurdle of figuring out how to prompt, and there's still a skill there. So
Right.
I don't think absolutely anyone can do it, but like on day one. But for sure, everyone can do it if you're smart and you just figure it out after a couple of iterations. Like AI, there's nothing that makes like like AI has not been around for that long, at least in the chat like AI coding interface that we know about now. So, people who have a year more of experience than you do
Right.
of AI prompting an AI to make an app, they only have 1 year on you. So
Right.
there's not as much of like that institutional moat anymore for
Hmm.
sure.
No, absolutely. Like it's anyone can get started, right? I think Blake is actually a really good example of that, where like I think he studied CS in school, right? But then came out of, I mean, you don't really like learn how to build an iOS app in college unless you take like a class dedicated to it, right? And it's like he can I think that's sort of touches on like a broader topic here, which is like not that it is get rich quick, but I think that like now is a time where, because of all the distribution methods available and the ease of access to creating things, like you might not get rich quick, but I think now more than ever by far is like a time where you can build something that is like ramen profitable, right? Where you can like create a living for yourself without needing to have, years of experience doing it.
No, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I don't think yeah, like people I forget what I was gonna say, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Um, well, yeah, let's see. I mean, I think that we've covered a lot of really good ground here. Um, yeah, I guess I'll end it with like, if is there anything else that you know, you would direct to someone if they were like, okay, cool, I'm watching this podcast, I understand what, you know, Consumer Club is to an extent, I understand what Superwall is to an extent, you know, they have like some like basic knowledge of what consumer apps are, like, and they're like, hey, I want to give this a shot, like, what would you recommend they do?
Yeah, I would just go with like the first app that you think of, like
Hmm.
the one that you've been thinking about for like a couple of weeks, couple of months. Like just try that one.
Yeah.
But then first, like do a little bit of research, like figure out what type of content that you think could do well on TikTok. Um, it might not even be TikTok too. Like it could be ads, it could be some other channel. Figure out what channel, like where do your customers hang out, and then just yeah, dive into the distribution. Like think of a few hypotheses for distribution, try them, and then if it doesn't work, then go back to the hypothesis and think, okay, why, like, was the hypothesis like not true then? Like, does this content format not work, or did the content just suck? Like that's the
Hmm.
thing that's the main hurdle that people start to get into, like when they start. So just choosing like three content formats, like
Hmm.
find TikToks that are already doing well in your niche, try to copy them or do videos similar to them, and then just see if you can see if you can crack like 5,000 views. If you can do that, then there's like something to it, and you should just like keep going.
Awesome. I think that's actually really actionable. Like, get to 5,000 views with an app that, you know, you've thought of, and then just iterate and test and experiment from there. I think that's really actionable advice. Awesome, man. Well, I guess the just to cap this off, where should people go if they want to find out more about you or Consumer Club? Just Twitter.
Yeah, just Twitter. Joseph Choi on Twitter. I also have like a Twitter list. I don't know if you guys have like show notes, but I have a
Mm,
Twitter list of like the people that I follow who are in the consumer app space. So if you
mm,
want to like see like what other people are talking about without being in like Consumer Club in the private chat. I think the private chat is better because people know it's private, so they
yeah.
talk about more interesting things. But
Yeah.
people do talk about stuff on Twitter too, so you can follow my Twitter list.
Awesome. Well, dude, it's been a pleasure having you. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast, and hope you have a great day, man.
Thanks. It's great being here.